you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
all in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
S-I-C-K.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. With Tony Marinaro.
55 seconds left in the penalty, a minute and 27 seconds left in regulation time. Boston 4, Montreal 3. Lafleur coming out rather gingerly on the right side. He gives it into Lemaire, back to Lafleur. Oh!
The sickest Montreal Canadiens podcast.
You're in the ball!
Sports entertainment like no other.
Rejoint, on lui fait perdre la rondelle, une passe devant. Et c'est le dégagement et ce sera la victoire des Canadiens. Stanley pour les Canadiens, le 23e de l'histoire.
You found the dogs! John, you found the dogs! He found the dogs! And all together, they worked a young team to the top. And now, a 24th Stanley Cup banner will hang from the rafters of the famous Forum in Montreal. The Canadiens win the Stanley Cup!
Brought to you by Energy Transportation Group. Driven to be different. La Vida Tibi. Embrace your true nature. And Playground, your premier gaming destination. It's gonna be sick.
Marinaro, the Sick Podcast. Thanks for watching, everyone, on YouTube, Facebook, and on Twitter. On tonight's show, we're going to talk about the Montreal Canadiens goaltending depth. Samuel Montembeault, Jakub Dobes, Kaapo Kähkönen, Carey Price under contract, Jacob Fowler with the Laval Rocket. We'll talk about all of that, depth at the goaltending position, and more importantly, how to develop that talent that they have at that position, because for the most part, they have some young goaltenders still in progression, with some having a higher ceiling than others. And joining me to talk about it will be Pierre McGuire. We'll get to Pierre in about a minute. First and foremost, go all the way with Betway. Get a free bet up to $200. Your first bet loses. Scan the QR code on the screen or click on the link in the details section to create an account. Redeem your welcome offer. Offers only available for new customers. Terms and conditions apply. Offers not available in Ontario. Must be 18 years of age and older. And please play responsibly. You see that fridge? La Bittt at Tibi. They launched their new Ultra Lager, refreshing, thirst-quenching beer. Perfect for the summer with only 90 calories, 2 grams of carbs, 4% ABV per can, available in a pack of 6 and 12. In grocery stores all around the province of Quebec, ultra light and ultra refreshing. I'll talk to you about two of our other partners, Playground and Energy Transportation, a little bit later on in the podcast. Without further ado, he is the co-host of the Sick Podcast, The Eye Test. Of course, he is a Stanley Cup champion behind the bench and part of the coaching staff with the Pittsburgh Penguins back in 1991 and 1992. Pierre McGuire, how are you?
I'm very well, Tony. Great to visit with you.
Great to visit with you as well, Pierre. Pierre, I know that for the long time, you were the president and still are of the Lane Hudson fan club, and you were and still are the president of the Jacob Fowler fan club. We saw Fowler get called up late in the season, sign a contract with the Montreal Canadiens, play some games with the Laval Rockets. We're going to talk about him. We want to talk about depth at the goaltending position. Pierre, you know, a lot of people have had very, very high praise for Jacob Fowler. So high that at one point you wonder if he's going to be able to meet the expectations, because when his name is out there, some people actually bring up names of other great goalies, Hasek, Brodeur, Patrick Roy. The list goes on and on. That's very, very high praise. Let's be honest, going to be difficult to achieve that kind of status. But if others achieved it, who's to say that he can't? So to get there, they're going to have to make sure that they fully develop this goaltender to the best of their ability. Now, every player has a different development path. I'd like to discuss the development path of Jacob Fowler with you today.
I would love to do that. And quite frankly, I think you know that I've used Marty Brodeur as a comparable to Jacob Fowler. I tried to recruit Marty Brodeur when he was a 16 and 17-year-old player out of Montreal Bourassa in St. Leonard when I was coaching at St. Lawrence University. And, you know, there weren't a lot of people in the rink in those days watching Marty play. And back then, that program was a goalie factory. It was unbelievable how many goalies they produced. Marty Brodeur was one of them. I see a lot of the same similarities. I'm not saying that Fowler's going to be a Hall of Fame goalie and he's going to be better than Brodeur and win the same amount of Stanley Cups. I don't know if he's going to do that or not. But I see a lot of similarities. And so I know one thing. when you were signed by New Jersey back in the day, like Marty was, he was a first-round pick in 1990 draft.
Why don't we bring up his hockey DB while you're at it? All right. Do you have it yet?
Yeah, you can see it. So the time was St. Hyacinthe, and obviously signs with New Jersey. But back in those days, you had to go to a thing called Lou U. And Lou U was their American Hockey League team. And in those days, it was in Utica, New York. So if you look at Marty Berdeur's really first full year of pro hockey, he spends all that time basically down in Utica. You know, and look at the amount of what he played, 32 games in that year, 32, and he's one game over 500, his record, just again, remembering it off the top of my head. And so that is kind of where Jacob Fowler is. And Jakub Dobes had a little bit of the same treatment. Then he gets called up to Montreal, and you see how well he does. Then he kind of got tired and he petered out. I think you're going to see a Dobes-Fowler kind of situation down in Laval this year. And that's going to put a lot of pressure on Marco Marciano, who's the goalie coach down there.
Yeah.
But I also got to think, because Montreal, a little bit like Toronto, a little bit like San Jose, their American Hockey League team is basically in the same city as their NHL team.
Yeah.
Because of that, the NHL goalie coach can spend time with the American League guys. And that's where Eric Raymond kicks in, who's the goalie coach of the Montreal Canadiens. And I think he's done some really good work, especially with Samuel Montembeault. So I don't want to get too into the weeds here, but I think Fowler has an opportunity to develop much like Marty Brodeur did back in the early part of his career with New Jersey.
You brought up something interesting. Marco Marciano's the goalie coach with the Laval Rocket.
Yep.
Eric Raymond's the goalie coach with the Montreal Canadiens. I would imagine each goalie coach has a philosophy that they believe in. Does an organization get involved here to make sure that the goalie coaches share the same philosophy for developing goaltenders and working with them, and there's a continuity there? Or can you have goalie coaches that have different practices?
Oh, you can have goalie coaches at different practices, but I would say in this case, part of why Eric Raymond's in Montreal is Jeff Gorton, because Jeff Gorton was with the New York Rangers when Eric Raymond was working there and finding his way, whether it was in Hartford or in New York. And one of the guys he learned from, obviously, is a legendary name, Benoit Allaire. And so while Benoit is not doing it anymore, I would say that he worships at the altar, Eric Raymond, that is, worships at the altar of Benoit Allaire. And I think everybody, especially in the province of Quebec, understands the legacy of the Allaire brothers, especially Francois Allaire, who did such a great job with Patrick Roy back in the day, whether it was in Montreal or whether it was obviously in Colorado. So all I would say is this: your point is well taken. I have to think Jeff Gorton knows exactly what they're going to get from Eric Raymond. I think they know exactly what they're getting from Marco Marciano, and that's why I think they're all going to sing from the same songbook.
Pierre, I know we're going to talk about Jacob Fowler and making sure that there's a right development plan in place for him, but let's take a look at Jakub Dobes as well. I want to take a look at you. You talked about him. Let's bring up his hockey DB. Do we have it? All right. So there's Dobes, who has played with the Laval Rocket 65 games over the past couple of seasons, not counting the playoffs as well, of course. And so, you know, when has he been speed tracked to the big team?
I think he has, but I think in a good way he has, Tony. The truth of the matter is he did some really good things at Ohio State before he turned pro with the Montreal Canadiens. So I respect that. But I saw something the other day, Tony, I think that's really important. You just touched on it in terms of the amount of games he's played in the American Hockey League and the amount of games he's played in the NHL. This is something that I saw on an NBC golf broadcast the other day about Scotty Scheffler, the number one golfer in the world. Scotty Scheffler, his first 75 tournaments was 0-0. No wins, nothing. He was 0-0 all across the board. His next 75 tournaments, he is a 4-time major winner and a 17-time tournament winner. So even the pro golfers, elite ones that are number one in the world, they have to spend time developing and being cultivated. So if you look at 75 starts in the PGA Tour, that's kind of like 75 starts in the American Hockey League. So I think that the Canadiens have done the right thing with Jakub Dobes, and we saw that last year. I think there's some refinement that still has to go on with him. But think about it long term. If the Canadiens have Jakub Dobes and Jacob Fowler as a 1-2 punch in goal, you're talking about an unbelievable amount of riches in goal for the Montreal Canadiens.
Your colleague, Jimmy Murphy, had a chance to talk to Jeff Gordon a couple of weeks ago for RG Media, of course. And Gordon said something about Montembeault really getting on a roll, and that's why he had the majority of the starts down the stretch. But they're going to give everyone an opportunity here and probably go with the hot goaltender. You surprised he said that? I mean, obviously he's got the internal competition going, but if you're Montembeault, how do you take that? Obviously, it's going to light a fire under you.
That's what I think they're looking to do, is to light a fire underneath them. The other thing that's important for people to remember, Dobes and Fowler do not require waivers to go down to the American Hockey League. Kaapo Kähkönen and Samuel Montembeault do require waivers. I think Montembeault would never clear, so he's not anything to worry about there. Kähkönen may or may not clear. We don't know that because of the price point that he's at. He's very digestible if somebody gets into a goaltending problem. But with Dobes and Fowler, you don't have to worry about it. You can bring them back and forth as much as you want and not worry about it internally. So I think they're trying to create this internal competition, and I think it's a good thing, not a bad thing.
Let's bring up the salaries to the goalies. All right, there you have it. Carey Price, of course, who's under contract on the IR at $10.5 million. Samuel Montembeault, this upcoming season and the season thereafter, $3.15 million. Kaapo Kähkönen has a 1-year deal at $1.15 million. And Jakub Dobes signed a 2-year deal at $965,000 per season cap hit. Because of what you just said, Pierre, would that mean that the Canadiens are leaning towards starting the season with Montembeault and Kähkönen with the big team because Kähkönen cannot clear waivers? Or it'll play out at camp, and if it's Dobes, it's Dobes, and if at one point Kähkönen has to get called up, and then they'll cross that bridge when they get to it.
I think they'll cross that bridge when they get to it. I think it's a really good point by you, Tony. The truth of the matter is I think they're going to make it a big-time competition in camp. Don't be surprised if it goes right to the wire. I think Samuel Montembeault obviously has an opportunity to be the guy because of his accomplishments last year. I don't think Jacob Fowler will be part of that competition this year. They need him to play. But Jakub Dobes has already played in the American Hockey League a lot, and he's already played in the NHL and did a real good job getting the Canadiens back into the playoff race last year. And eventually they made the playoffs. So I would say that they're probably leaning towards a Dobes-Montembeault start because I think Kähkönen will clear waivers early in the year. I think later on, if there's a potential for goalie injuries around the league, then he may not clear as easily. So that's why I think you'll maybe see Dobes and Montembeault start the year in Montreal.
Sick Podcast brought to you in part by Energy Transportation Group, a leading full-service logistics provider serving all of North America, driven to be different. Also, Playground, 3 tasty reasons to visit the Rail. Mondays as of 4 p.m. Dive into 2 lobster tails for just $22. Served with rice, veggies, garlic butter, and a warm biscuit. Thursdays from 4 p.m. Sink your teeth into their Surf and Turf special, 8-ounce New York strip with shrimp, fries, and pepper sauce for only $19. Fridays from 11:30 a.m. to 4 p.m. Enjoy any burger, sandwich, pizza, or main for just $7. Certain conditions apply. All you need is a valid Playground player's card, and it's free. Deals this good are worth the trip at Playground. Why settle for ordinary when you can have extraordinary? All right, let's bring up Jacob Fowler's hockey DB. All right, here you have it. Boston College, the last 3 seasons, Pierre McGuire saw him day in and day out, games and practices. The numbers, of course, are pretty impressive. 214 goals against, 163 goals against, 163 goals against, 926 save percentage, 940 save percentage. Oh, pardon me, it's a couple of seasons at Boston College, not 3, but a couple. So it was 214 goals against average, 163 goals against average, 926 save percentage, 940 save percentage. And Pierre with the Laval Rocket, 3 games, 232 goals against average, 914 save percentage. Talk to me about when you take a look at his hockey CV in the USHL with Youngstown Phantoms, Boston College for a couple of seasons, Laval last year. We talked about maybe fast-tracking Dobes. Has Jacob Fowler been fast-tracked, or is he just ready for primetime?
He's going to be ready for primetime. I think they're doing it the right way. They brought him up, and they put him right in Laval. They didn't do what they did with Lane Hudson and bring him right into the National Hockey League. They brought this kid up after his season at Boston College was done. They put him in the American Hockey League. You got to remember, he was a champion goalie with the Youngstown Phantoms in the USHL, winning the Clark Cup. That's not an easy thing to do. And Youngstown hasn't had a lot of promising prospects like Jacob Fowler in a very long time. So he's an outstanding player. I watched him, as you said correctly, Tony, so many times, whether it was real games, exhibition games, practices, World Junior. Hard to think of a goalie that's been better in college hockey than he has over the last 2 to 3 years. I know there's some people that would talk about what's going on at Michigan State. Some people would talk about what went on at the University of Denver with different goalies around college hockey. But I would tell you, for my money, Jacob Fowler over the last couple of years has been the best goalie in U.S. college hockey.
All right. Development plan. I know you talked about Marco Marciano is going to work with him. I know you talked about Eric Raymond is going to work with him. I would imagine, obviously, they're going to spend a lot of time with him because the hopes are so high for him. But what's the proper development plan? Like, some goalies play X amount of games. Some goalies play more games at the American Hockey League. Some goalies play less. Some goalies don't go to the American Hockey League at all. Some goalies maybe get fast-tracked because there's a defensive system that's put in place that they know that they're going to be able to insulate that goaltender or protect them. Then maybe we could start talking about style of play that the Canadiens will play eventually in front of a Jacob Fowler. What can you tell me about all these topics, Pierre?
Well, number one, I think it's really important what you said about the style of game that's going to be played. One thing about the American Hockey League that's a lot different than the NHL, highly unpredictable, because you got a lot of defensemen that are looking to get points, so they're up the ice a lot because they think that in order for them to get to the next level, the NHL, they got to score. They take chances. They're high-risk players. They maybe aren't as committed, and I'm talking about the forwards now, on the back check because they're looking to get points. So you face a lot more odd man rush situations. You face a lot more maybe breakaway situations in the American Hockey League. So that develops guys. But here's the one thing I tell you. You don't worry about the numbers of American Hockey League goalies. What you worry about is how consistent they are, what's their rebound control like, what's their mood like, and do they have the conditioning levels mentally and physically to be able to come up and sustain it at the NHL level. I've seen a lot of guys be really, really marginal AHL goalies because of what I just talked about. Then they come up to the NHL, you're like, I had no idea that guy was that good. How did he get that good? Because mentally and physically, he was a lot better than what the numbers would tell you. So I would say, having watched Jacob Fowler a lot and watched Jakub Dobes a lot, I wouldn't be surprised if they split, because the American Hockey League is mostly a weekend league because that's when the gates are good for the owners. And if they were to go, 3 games in 2.5 days, maybe the third day said the hot guy plays. But I would just say that I wouldn't be surprised if it's a pretty even split if both those guys are down there for the entire season. And that would be great. That would be a fantastic fit.
You talk about the mental toughness, which I would imagine is so important. Like, every goalie in the world, past or present, has let in or will let in bad goals. Some of them, though, it just spirals from there, and 1 becomes 2 and 2 becomes 3. Others give up that bad goal, and then when the game's on the line, they save their team. Talk to me about the mental toughness of this player. Once again, you that have seen him up close and personal. We're talking about Jacob Fowler.
He's mentally tough. He's really tough. And he'll battle through a lot of stuff. The biggest thing about Boston College for his 2 years there, the expectation level was so high because it wasn't just Jacob Fowler. It's Gabe Perreault who's going to play for the New York Rangers, already has. It's Ryan Leonard, who's played for the Washington Capitals and has done some amazing things in college hockey. It's a steady array of first and second round picks. I don't want to bore the people with all the names, but they've had a stacked roster at BC for a long time. But they were also a team, because they were so young, prone to making a lot of mistakes. So they exposed their goaltender, Jacob Fowler, to a lot of high-quality chances against. And what I found that was really refreshing about him is he would battle through all that adversity. Yeah, there were times where he'd give up bad goals, but he wouldn't give up 2. He would make sure, I'm going to shut the door on the next one. I've seen him win a lot of games. I've seen him lose a few games. But the losses that he's had, I wouldn't pin them on him. I'd pin them more on the youth of the roster rather than the youth that was a goal.
And Pierre said he didn't want to bore you with names, but another one obviously is James Higgins, who was drafted 7th overall by the Boston Bruins, who played with Boston College as well. It's funny because when Marty Brodeur was playing, and you talked about trying to find the development path for Jacob Fowler that could be similar to what Marty Brodeur had with the New Jersey Devils organization. At one point, some people said, this guy's a really good goalie. You don't have to play a defensive system in front of him. You can actually open up in front of a goalie like that. The New Jersey Devils played a stifling defensive system in front of that goaltender and actually made a very strong goaltender even stronger. an almost a goaltender difficult to score on, almost unbeatable. And you know what? In the end, the proof is in the pudding. They ended up winning 3 Stanley Cups. They ended up looking for continuity at the coaching position, coaches that actually saw the game and shared the same philosophy as their general manager Lou Lamoriello at the time. So now Fowler could be different. The Canadiens are a team that they're not known for their defense or their defensive play. Mind you, they're putting together a pretty nice defense score, which I'm sure we'll talk about on another occasion on another show. But if you have a goalie like Jacob Fowler, Pierre, there's different philosophies you can have. One of them is insulating him so he becomes almost unbeatable. And another one is probably opening it up and being able to take some chances where maybe other teams couldn't because you have such a good goalie. Talk to me about your mentality on your philosophy on that.
I'm going to go to a Montreal name that everybody will really like, Patrick Roy. When he was in Montreal, especially when he was playing, for whether it was Jacques Demers, whether it was Pat Burns, whether it was Jean Perron, Patrick Roy played in a lot of different systems, but probably the most defensive system he played in was for Pat Burns. And in '89, they went to the final. They didn't win. They lost to a really good Calgary team. But think about it. So Patty wins a cup in '86. He wins a cup in '93. But then he goes to Colorado, and this is where it changes. He's playing for Mark Crawford the first time around, and they have all that firepower led by Joe Sakic and Peter Forsberg and Milan Hajduk, and the list goes on. It's a murderer's row of offense. Claude Lemieux, and go on. And they open it up, and it's completely different than what he's experiencing in Montreal. But why could they do that? They could do that because they had Patrick Roy. So Patrick played in a lot of different systems, and he was always able to elevate at key times, just like Marty Brodeur, I think, was able to do, especially after Jacques Lemaire and Larry Robinson left New Jersey. Marty was not. I don't think there's been a goalie in this modern era. Now, forget about Glenn Hall and what he was able to do with his 500-plus consecutive starts. Marty Brodeur, I believe, had 12 straight years of 65 or more starts.
Can't do that anymore.
But that's why I'm saying the Canadiens are, with Dobes and Fowler, you're looking at a lot of positive stuff. And especially, I think, with the way the Canadiens are playing right now, and something you said that I think is really wise, the way they're starting to build their defense, they're going to be a hard team to play against. And with that kind of goaltending, the system's not going to really matter.
Patrick Roy won his 4 Stanley Cups. His goalie coach was François Allaire. There was a continuity there. Marty Brodeur won 3 Stanley Cups. His goaltending coach was Jacques Caron. There was a continuity there. You talked about Eric Raymond with the Montreal Canadiens, Marco Marciano with the Laval Rocket. Pierre, where do they fare vis-a-vis other goalie coaches in the National Hockey League? And is there a goalie coach today that stands out and is in a class of his own the way François Allaire used to be and can be as successful as Jacques Caron used to be?
What's happened in Florida is amazing, and Roberto Luongo and Leo Luongo deserve a lot of credit. What they've done down in Florida in terms of creating a goalie system and a model for consistency and development has been fantastic. I would look at them as being one of the preeminent organizations in terms of goaltending development. Eric Raymond, and I talked about it before when he came into the New York Rangers organization with Hartford, with the Rangers, basically being mentored by Benoit Allaire. Henrik Lundqvist doesn't make the Hockey Hall of Fame without the mentorship and the help from Benoit Allaire. I'm just telling you right now. I saw Hank play a bunch of games over in Sweden. I watched him play a lot internationally. He got refined and changed a whole lot when Benoit Allaire worked with him in New York. So I think Eric Raymond's learned a lot from him, and I think that will help all the Canadian goalies going forward.
You said something very interesting. The goalie coach for the Florida Panthers, and has been for the last 15 years or so, is Rob Tallis. Roberto Luongo is a senior advisor to the general manager, to Bill Zito. His brother, Leo Luongo, is a scout within the organization. Then you talk to me about goalie development. So albeit Rob Tallis is the goalie coach, you're saying that Roberto Luongo, Leo Luongo help out? They consult?
100%. They do. They developed a brand down there that's really made everybody better. And, their team in Charlotte, people forget this, their team in Charlotte went to the Calder Cup final, and they lost, obviously, to a really good team and an older team from Abbotsford. but they got there because they had goaltending and they had goaltending depth, and that's because they had internal development. So I give them a lot of credit in Florida. And, Billy Zito and Roberto have worked hard together to get this done, and they deserve, as an organization, huge praise for it. They really do.
Should the Canadiens at one point take a look at a former goaltender and bring that goaltender in as a consultant?
I think everybody should, if you can find the right guy. I think one of the things that's going on right now, Tony, and I'm not trying to start mayhem here in the hockey world, especially in July, people are going to be watching their budgets really close, Tony. I'm just telling you right now, the business of hockey is going to get harder here for the next little while because the cap is going up, and people forget that. And so when the cap goes up, the floor goes up. And that means that owners are spending more money, and only 16 teams make the playoffs. And if you're not one of those 16 teams, you're going to be losing money. And so this is a tough time in the NHL history in terms of finances. And because you live in Canada, and I know because I spent a lot of time in Canada and grew up here. The Canadian dollar is not what the American dollar is. So all these teams take in Canadian. I'm talking about the 7 in Canada, and they pay out in U.S. It's a very difficult time in hockey. I'm not sure. I'm just getting to your original.
Yeah, I hear you.
The budgets aren't going to be as big on the Canadian side for a lot of these teams as they are in the States.
At one point, you talked about the work Leo Luongo hands-on with the Charlotte Checkers, and they eliminated the Laval Rocket in the playoffs. Eventually, they bowed out to Abbotsford in the final. I had a chance to watch that series versus the Laval Rocket, and it was Kaapo Kähkönen who was in goal for the Charlotte Checkers. And you know what? Earlier this summer, the Montreal Canadiens go out and they sign goaltender Kaapo Kähkönen. Pierre, I would imagine seeing him the way they saw him in the playoffs did not hurt his case for when they signed him. They probably said, hey, you know what? This guy can give us goaltending depth within the organization. Other than goaltending depth, and it's probably just that, did his signing say anything to you? Like the second you heard the Canadiens sign Kaapo Kähkönen, what's the first thing that came to your mind?
Development of Dobes and Fowler properly. They're not going to rush young players. That's the first thing I thought of. Kaapo Kähkönen can play in the NHL. He has played in the NHL. He's taken a team to the American Hockey League final, which we just talked about in Charlotte. To me, the one thing, and I'm sure that Eric Raymond and Marco Marciano have tape on this, when he came into the league, I did a lot of his games back then. He didn't catch the puck particularly well. He can stop the puck, but he doesn't catch the puck really well. I think he's improved on that. I still think he can improve a little bit more. But he's a competent professional goalie, Tony. There's no question. And I think as soon as I heard that the Canadiens had interest and were going to sign him, I said now they understand the development model for their goalies. I was really excited for both Dobes and Fowler because they won't be rushed.
Is that common for goalies from Russia, Scandinavia, wherever, but goalies who are not North American, who probably grow up playing baseball, who you would think would have a good catching hand? Is that something that's pretty common, that they got to work on their catching hand?
Yeah, it takes a little bit longer for those European guys to really handle the puck. They play foot games, football in particular, something that I know you're very familiar with, whereas a lot of our guys are playing stick and ball games, whether they're catching balls or hitting balls. True. So it's a little bit different. It is. There's no question. A lot of the Russian goalies have better hands than what we give them credit for. But I think the Finns and the Swedes in particular, their hand skills are not as good as maybe what the North American kids are.
So, Pierre, in ending, the Canadiens organization believe that they have goaltending depth, number one. And out of that goaltending depth, they have a goalie who they think has a really, really high ceiling, who, if polished properly, could be a gem that'll shine for a very, very long time. Everything will go in the way that they develop these goalies and the way they handle these goalies, and that one goalie in particular. Based on everything you told me about Marty Brodeur and the way he was handled in the Lou Lamoriello school of thinking, the one thing that you would say, this is what the Canadiens are going to have to do for their goalies and Fowler in particular to have long-term success, what would be the one piece of advice that you would give in ending so that they make sure they handle these goalies, and especially Fowler, as well as they can?
Yeah, constant attention to detail. Foot skills, hand skills, reading plays off the rush, handling the puck, understanding the trapezoid, because that's a big difference. In college, there is no trapezoid. So for Dobes and Fowler, understanding the play with the trapezoid versus without the trapezoid. So just little attention to detail things. understanding how to battle through crease traffic, in particular for Fowler. There's not as much of it in college hockey just because it's more of an outside rush kind of a game, whereas in the NHL, it's more of a cycle-oriented body slam, get bodies to the net kind of a game. So just little attention to details and small, refined parts of the game.
If I would ask you right now, and of course, we're still in the heart of the summer, and it's probably not a fair question because the battle is going to take place in camp, but who do you have your money on besides Samuel Montembeault? Who do you think is going to be backing him up when the season starts?
I think Dobes could be there to start, but I think eventually Kakinen will go up there and Dobes will be back in the American League.
Special thanks to our sponsors, Energy Transportation Group, The Playground, to Bittt, to Tibi, and to Betway. And special thanks to Pierre McGuire, co-host of the Sick Podcast, The Eye Test. Thank you, Pierre. Talk to you soon.
Can't wait, Tony. Thank you.
Thank you very much. If you like the podcast tonight, leave us a 5-star review on Apple. It's our way of feeling the love. For Shane Gamo and Master Control, thanks for watching the Sick Podcast. I'm Marinaro.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast with Tony Marinaro on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts. The Sick Podcast is brought to you by Energy Transportation Group, driven to be different. LaVita.tb, embrace your true nature. And Playground, your premier gaming destination.